holistic education, which is a prominent point emphasized in the NEP 2020. By this time, you have listened to a couple of lectures and seen many presentations related to NEP in general and about the silent features of NEP, where the holistic and multidisciplinary education is one of the prominent things emphasized through this policy. I will be making a simple attempt to present before you as simply as possible to reach out to you. In the process of my interaction, if you find any confusions, if you wish to add anything, take the liberty. You can unmute yourself, raise your question. This is a webinar. More than listening to a lecture, somebody's lecture, we can interact. We can come out with something new to enhance our knowledge base. As such, let there be a sort of dialogue instead of making it a monologue, listening to lecture like that. I'm asked to speak to you on the topic multidisciplinary and holistic education. Before I take you to those topics, let me first tell you in brief about the profession that we have chosen, all of you and me, who are in the field of academics, teaching in the universities and the colleges, who have been exposed to this new policy for the last 2 years or so. And some of us are very clear as to what is to be done, and some of us are yet to pick up the crux of the NEP 2020, and some of us are doing it as it is compulsory and as there is no alternative to go for that. Whenever we do anything, the commitment and the concern and involvement will be more when we understand what we are doing. In order to make all of us to aware what we are doing and where do we want to reach with the present education policy, with the courses that we are teaching, the programs that we are conducting in the universities and the colleges. As such, NEP's objective is to convert the higher education institutions as multidisciplinary study centers by the end of 2030, so that the entire gamut of higher education will change by 2030. That is the intention behind making all these preparations. This webinar is also one such preparation. When we have to prepare for accepting and practicing something new, we should know more of it. Here and there, it's natural. There will be something. Let us deliberate and let us try to understand the concepts as clearly as possible so that implementation will become easy for us. First of all, before I take you to speak on multidisciplinary and holistic education, let me remind what is this education is all about. Why this education? You will be knowing, as academicians, you will be knowing education is the deliberate and systematic influence exerted by a matured person upon an immature through instruction, discipline, and harmonious development of physical, intellectual, aesthetic, social, and spiritual powers of human beings according to individual and social needs that are directed towards the union of educand with his creator at the end, at the final end. This was the description of education given by Reddins. It's very clear that education is a deliberate and systematic process of influencing on others. We are all in the process. We are all with the responsibility of deliberately influencing on our students. Here, the description further says, it is the influence made by a matured person. Teachers, relatively, comparatively are matured individuals when compared to the students who listens to them. Therefore, education is an act of influencing on others. That is none other than the student. Whoever is under that process is a student. It is the influence that a matured person makes on another person. Here, the purpose of using it as immature, the person is still in the process of making himself. Through instruction, we give instructions, develop discipline, harmonious development of physical. Education is not only aiming at imparting knowledge through lectures, or it is not concerned with only making people to know how to read and write. It involves the physical and the mental growth of an individual that should lead towards the social and spiritual power. The social and spiritual power will make that individual to be different, to be unique, to be a complete man or a woman. The complete man or the woman is one who possesses all these characteristics that are necessary to lead the life comfortably, meaningfully. That's what the intention behind education. Further, the simplest definition that was given by Mahatma Gandhi can be remembered at any point of time. Education aims at all-round development and drawing out the best in the child. Best in the child. Here, you may find there are two N's instead of one. Don't take it as that. Remove one N from your mind. Take it as best in the child. Best in the child, child's mind, body, and the spirit. See, education is concerned with drawing the best from the child, making the child to develop overall. Overall development means all the three types of developments. One is development of the mind, development of the body, development of spiritual thinking. Say for instance here, if you go step by step, development of body means this is the physical development. Education must help our students to physically grow. Physical growth is natural, but many a time it may not happen in the proper way. That should be the reason people become different. You will be knowing there is a relationship between the mental health and the physical health. The body and the mind are interconnected. Therefore, education must aim at making the child to have a best body, thinking that healthy mind stays in a healthy body. Body is the house where the mind stays. Therefore, the mind and the body must have a proper coordination, a proper connection, relationships, balance. Therefore, all-round development of the body, mind, and the spirit. Body, mind, and the spirit. When we use the word spirit or the spirituality, we believe that it is concerned with understanding life as what it is. These are the three things that any education program must impart to students. Precisely, you can believe that education is the most powerful tool of social transformation. Let it be any type of education. The moment you use the word education, it is the powerful tool that can bring changes in the society. In the true sense, education is not concerned with developing literates. It's not just teaching people how to write and read. It is to make them to think. It is to make them to critically apprise their environment and the surroundings. Okay, it is training of the mind. It is not concerned with teaching the facts. Education is not concerned with teaching the facts. It is not concerned with telling students what of a thing. It is to make the students to imagine how of a thing, how things work, why it is like this, why should I learn, why behave in the way that they are behaving, why should I do what I am doing. Therefore, the how of a thing and why of a thing are the most prominent things in any educational program. Therefore, we the people in the higher education segment teaching students who are probably very shortly going to get into the real life situations, and where they face the realities, need to equip ourselves to make the students a total personality, an overall personality to handle the realities of life. Keeping that in mind, the organizers of this event asked me to speak on holistic education and multidisciplinary education, which are highly emphasized in the national education policy. Before taking you further, just to have an insight into you about this and think about whatever I'm telling hereafter to relate, let me tell you, education is broadly concerned with building human character. It is not just reading and writing, it is concerned with building the human character and capabilities. It is these characters and capabilities that enables the individuals for the realization of full potential of oneself and full potential of the civilization where they are parties or where they are part of it. Therefore, it is in a broader perspective, it is a tool with which you can change not only an individual, you can change a society, change a civilization. Therefore, it is concerned with building characters in the individuals. Needless to elaborate the significance of characters. Characters have several meanings that we can deliberate later on. As I told you already, the topics that I am talking are still appears to be abstract. The reason is simple. These are multidisciplinary, interconnected topics for many people, and people who are related to education, sociology, anthropology, economics can interpret the things differently when compared to people from science background and people from commerce, management, things like that. Whatever the stream to which you belongs to, you can relate everything towards the ultimate objective of education. The ultimate objective of education is character building. Overall development of an individual. For that purpose, you can understand holistic education seeks to provide an induction into a balanced approach. What to learn, how much to learn what. Say, for instance, here, many a time people say that those who study engineering may not be as good as they are in engineering in subjects like economics. And their knowledge of economics may be poor when compared to a pure economics students. And students who study economics, sociology, history, political science don't know about the basics of structures, basics of engineering. And at the same time, an engineering gold medalist may not be knowing the basics of law, legal issues. Here, unless you know everything, when I use the word everything, here in the true sense of education, India has an historical base. Our ancestors have laid a foundation wherein education was made to include 64 vidyas. The 64 vidyas are kalas, that are those that are essential for any individual to lead a comfortable and happy life. Those who used to be good in everything are called Pandit, or they are called a great man with the knowledge of all the 64 Vidya or Kala. Therefore, here, holistic education seeks to provide an induction into a balanced, inclusive, and comprehensive worldview. It is not only for understanding one subject, not only to solve the problem that we encounter in our immediate life, but the worldwide knowledge, making one to be a worldly citizen, a global citizen rather. To make the person to become a global citizen, what are all the things that are necessary? That must be taught in the curriculum that we are going to have. For that purpose only, NEP made it mandatory to revisit to the different programs that we are teaching in the universities and the colleges with an intention to make them more application oriented, more connected to the reality of life, and making the person who comes out of the colleges and the universities as a graduate to be an all-rounder to handle the problems of life than anything else. Problems of life are multifaceted, multidimensional. They never ask what is your expertise, but they comprised of everything related to the world. A world has multidimensional issues, multidimensional factors that influence life from different angles. For that purpose, we need to prepare the students. Therefore, here, personal growth is one side. On the other side, for the growth of the country, for the growth of the humanity, what are all the things that are essential? Those things are to be taught and those things are to be learned by these students. I think you are listening to me and I am making you to take an entry into the subject given to me. As and when you feel like making me to answer your questions, or you feel I am disconnected, getting away from the mainstream, take the liberty to call me, stop me and question me. With that understanding only we can proceed further. Otherwise, in a webinar, if I simply talk to my computer screen and if you put your video off and stay back, nothing new will emerge other than me talking from one side. See here, as teachers in the colleges and the universities, you have experienced certain challenges that are common to every one of us. Every one of us. These challenges are connected with the content that we are teaching and the expectations of the society, expectations of the society where we are all living. One of the biggest challenge that the academicians are facing all over the world today is such that is connected with the reality and usefulness of the programs that we are offering. There is a general tendency to believe that there is a widened gap between the educational levels of the students and the needs of the present society. Many a time people feel that what they study in the courses of or the programs offered by the universities and the colleges are closer to, what shall I say, redundance. Many people are of the opinion what they have studied through the textbooks and what they have studied, listened to the lectures, or cannot be used in the day-to-day life when they get out of the college as an employee, as a practitioner, as a professional. The reason is simple: world is changing very fast. In a fast changing world, unless we change ourselves, we change our course content, we change our pedagogy, we change the content of the syllabi that we have, we will be nowhere. This is the biggest challenge. Whatever the new syllabus that you can include, that will become outdated very shortly. How to be in tune with the changing world is a big challenge before the academicians. Followed by that, the relationship between student and the teacher, student and the institutions where we are all working has become more commercialized these days. It's not strange that today every parent is willing to spend more money but expects a lot in return for the money that they are spending. As such, they are in the market to buy something by paying high prices. Many a time, parents and the students think that they are able to pay any amount, they will be ready to pay any fee, but they expect high returns on the money that they have invested. What do they expect? The society which is willing to spend so much is naturally having a higher expectations from the educational outcomes. What the outcomes the society is expecting? These days, the only outcome that the society is expecting is employability of the graduates who are coming out of our colleges. Whether the objective of education is only to make them employable products, employable individuals, nobody is bothered. Today, when any parent come to college for admission, the first question they ask is, sir, is there any scope for the courses that you are running? What do you mean by scope? In simple words, scope means it is the job opportunities available. It is how easy to get a job with the help of the degree that you are giving. Many a time people consider the degree certificate as a visa to get into the job market. If that job is assured, people think, yes, your education is useful. But many a time what happens? Even those who get a job because of their qualifications, because of their degrees, if they are unable to make use of their overall knowledge, when I use the word knowledge here, it is to remind once again, I'm not telling anything new, that education includes three things. One is the knowledge, other one is the skill, and the third one is the attitude. If the person who is employed on the job is unable to synchronize and make use of all these three, the knowledge, attitude, and the skills properly, he will become a failure. You might have seen people who are drawing huge salary may not be happy in life. And people who have made a lot of money may not be comfortable with what they have done. And at the same time, the life problems, the life skills have become very much essential these days, which are missing in the course contents that we are teaching. And more than anything, for a long time, we believed in specializations and super specializations. The specializations and super specializations made us to go in a watertight, compartmentalized scenario wherein we may become experts in one field and illiterates in another. As such, in a changing world condition where technology is ruling the roost, where the technology has become so advanced, wherein you cannot do anything without the use of computers, the new softwares like robotic technology, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence has become so popular. These days, nobody talks about the human intelligence. Everybody speaks in terms of artificial intelligence. Given this situation, the expectations of the parents, expectations of the society cannot be met with the old format of education that we had. You will be knowing for a new disease, only new medicine is to be prescribed. Old medicine cannot cure the new disease that was evident during the COVID-19 pandemic, where we felt the shortage or even the absence of medicine for the type of problems the world encountered in the name of COVID-19. Therefore, society is investing more and has a high expectations of good educational outcome. The question is, what is good educational outcome? Is it only helping them to get a job? That's the big question that we must keep in mind. As a result of this changed situation, teachers everywhere are facing the problem. The problem may be concerned with handling the big size of the class. Number of students enrolling to higher education has increased. It is a good sign, no doubt. We are not against it. But at the same time, we are not mentally and otherwise prepared to address the challenges of increased number of students on the one side. And for teachers, it is a difficult examination for them to interact with students of different background, age, expertise, maturity level, cultural background, etc. Forget all these things. Today, the immediate problem that we need to address in the colleges and the universities is to take away our students from the COVID-19 phobia and the mentality that they have developed during the last 2 years. It has made a lot of implications for teaching learning, and our students are still under the shadow of the COVID-19 and its implications. Making them to get out of that, preparing them to anticipate the future challenges, helping them to prepare handling these problems is the real challenge that the academicians are experiencing across the globe, not only in India. But in India, incidentally, at the at this point of time, we are starting with the introduction of new education, National Education Policy 2020. That National Education Policy is aiming at bringing some revolutionary changes into the education system. And one such initiative is to make the courses holistic and multidisciplinary with an altered and changed approach to education. Therefore, before I take you further towards this, just to make you people to speak for a while, you are all into teaching, you are all practicing teaching. Through your experiences, you might have noticed certain unique characteristics, certain unique features with the present generation of students. If I ask a question, how do you describe your present generation of students? Other than what I have listed in the slide, if anybody can say that I have noticed something special, something different with my students, you can take the liberty to share it with me. What are the characteristics or the features of the present generation of students? If anybody wishes to speak, you can. Otherwise, I will just go through this. The new generation of students, if you make an attempt to realize, understand your experience with the present batches of students, the present batches of students, they may be very modern, updated, well-versed, rich. Present generation of students, normally from the middle and the higher middle class, even the lower middle class people are not that bad in the present situation. The disposable income that the parents are spending towards education of their children has increased. As a result, you can notice rich students willing to spend, students who are willing to work. They may have certain characteristics. The first and the most prominent thing that I have noticed, some of the students may be brilliant, good in mathematics, good in economics, good in every subject that I am teaching. I'm sure here the audience is made up of teachers from different faculty. Your students may be excellent in your domain-specific knowledge, discipline-specific knowledge, good in physics, good in English, good in mathematics, good in commerce, good in political science, economics. But when it comes to interpersonal skills, the skills that are necessary to get connected with the people, to get involved in the company of others, to stay together, their abilities appears to be very less. Because education as an objective, UNESCO, when it has declared the objectives of education somewhere in 1996, they made a mention that education must make people to learn to do, learn to know, learn to live, and learn to be together. See, these four most important things. First thing is learn to know. Education must motivate people to learn to know. Unless they have an intention to know the things, they will not become practical students. Many students don't have that willingness to know the things because many a time they think they know everything. Followed by that, learn to do. They must have the skill. Only knowing is not important. The motor skills required to do the job is essential. They must learn to do that. Whatever they are telling, they must practice it. And more than anything, learn to live. Any education that will not give the confidence for an individual to live, to lead his life, despite of hundreds of challenges, difficulties, problems, is meaningless. At the first instance, education must build confidence in the minds of people. That should be the distinguishing factor between an educated and an uneducated. But many a time we have noticed immaturity because of their imbalanced attitude towards life. Attitude towards life. Therefore, here the first thing that we can comment on the present generation of students, I don't know whether you agree or not, nobody is responding to me. The first thing is interpersonal skills are less developed. The second thing that you need to identify from the present generation of students, relatively, I'm not generalizing. Even today, there are students who are not exposed to the basic technology, basic facilities related to computers, internet, and things like that. But on the whole, majority of our students are computer skilled and they are strong with computer skills. Their ability to handle computer, if not the computer, electronic devices are very popular among our students, and they are familiar with most of the features available, if not in a computer, in the mobile phone. People think they will become smart with a smartphone, and they know how to use the smartphone to its maximum capacity. Just imagine life without a mobile phone, Today, most of the young students think that without phone, there is no life. I've read news items somewhere in the local newspapers and all, where a student committed suicide because of their fathers or parents' unwillingness to get them a smartphone, mobile phone. And mobile phone has become inevitable these days in the light of these online classes. The pandemic made us to tell our students to come with a mobile phone to the class. No doubt, our students are good in using electronic devices strongly. But when it comes to their mentality, they appear to be skeptical and desensitized. Desensitized towards the worldly happenings. They are not bothered as to what's happening in the society. If they look at a TV news or read a newspaper about a war in a country, they forget it as if it is not related to them. If they see a situation of exploitation of somebody somewhere, they will not bother about it. If they look at the changes in the government policies, they don't bother to know. Many of our students have discontinued the habit of reading newspaper, watching news, etc., because they think it is not related to them. That made them to be desensitized. Followed by that, they are good in multitasking, enjoying multiple work at a time. They don't concentrate anything on a single item. They do multiple things. It is one good sign for the present generation of students, but that skill must be properly channelized. Their ability of doing multitask must be properly channelized. And they enjoy they think questioning is everything. But what type of questions they raise are your students as a new generation for you? When compared to you, your students' dependency on their parents, dependency on teachers, dependency on the system, government is very high, and they expect a lot of the things to happen from outside. Thanks to the new concept that we have introduced, outsourcing. Our youngsters are happy to outsource everything, even preparation for examination, writing examination. If there is a means to outsource, they will be happily do that. They don't take it as their commitment, their obligation, and their responsibility to do it. That is one of the things that I have observed. I may not be 100% right. This is one of the things that you can speak about in the present day. But one good thing They can negotiate for anything. Their negotiating skills are very high. With this background, the present generation students, if we leave them like that only, they will go like that. Believe me, India's strength is the youngsters, youth power. Again and again, I am recalling Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's statement. He said, by 2020, India will become superpower. When he said, by 2020, I am saying this by 2023, by 2020, India will become superpower. His only belief was that by 2020, India will become young. The youngest population of the world will be in larger number in the country. The youngsters are the real asset for any country. And with the help of these youngsters, we can realize the demographic dividend. That demographic dividend will make us to become superpower. Has it happened? 3 years has already lapsed after 20. If we go in the present phase, at least by 2030, are we able to realize what Dr. Abdul Kalam has mentioned? We have to make an introspection and we need to think, are we going in the right direction? To put them on the right direction, we need to change our policy, we need to change our pedagogy, catch them young. If we allow them to be like this, after another 20 years, India may become a country with old population. Most of these youngsters, after another 20 years, will become old. There you can't do anything. There the priorities will be different. For this purpose, we need to change. With an interest to change all this, NEP 2020 was introduced. I'm not going to elaborate too much on this. I'm making the base for discussing holistic and multidisciplinary education. The new national education policy was introduced on 29th July 2020. Hence, it is called NEP 2020. By this time, I'm sure you are familiar with most of the things, but I will just run through in connection with NEP and multidisciplinary and holistic education pattern. What are the objectives of this NEP at all? One of the most prominent objectives of NEP is the removal of rigid boundaries in academics. Knowledge. Education is something concerned with the knowledge. And incidentally, for the sake of our convenience and comfort, we have branched out the knowledge into several systems. It is for our good understanding only. We have classified knowledge into different sectors like engineering, medicine, law, humanities, science, arts, commerce, fine arts, something like that. Accordingly, in our colleges and the universities, we are giving degrees. A BSc graduate will not be made to know at least what's happening in the Faculty of Arts like political science, economics, history, and at the same time, a history student may not be knowing what is happening in chemistry. Because we are not expected to do so. We are not expected. We were made to look at one direction. Okay, we still believe that where worldly wiseness is called for. Worldly wiseness. To make the people to become worldly wise, worldly wise. We need to make it interdisciplinary. Let people study anything that they want. For many reasons, a student might have opted for some subject, but internally, he may be having a desire to know something else, something related to his satisfaction, his expectation, inherent pulse. So that in order to make him to get an opportunity to study the things that he likes, because education will become effective only when both the teacher and the student enjoys it. To make it enjoyable, NEP aims at removing the rigid boundaries between the subjects, making it more interconnected, integrated. Another objective is opening up of choice and preferences. Yes, let there be choice. If an engineering student wishes to learn something related to literature, let him. If a commerce student interested in knowing something about law, let him. A law student interested in understanding the basic principles of physics. A philosophy student is interested in understanding the fundamentals of chemistry. Why should we prevent them? Give them an opportunity. Let there be choice. That is opening up of choice and preferences. Followed by that, reduce the dropout ratio and improve GR is another objective. Why students are discontinuing their education? The discontinued students must be brought back to the colleges. They must be given an opportunity to continue their education, because education must be viewed as a lifetime process. People can learn at any time. Since childhood, we have been hearing the word that age is not a bar for learning, but our academic system made age a bar. We are hesitant to give admission to people who have crossed a certain age in the colleges. The society looks at them differently, but there is no end for learning. In order to go in pace with the saying, education can happen throughout the life, we must bring back those who have dropped out from the courses and make them to study again. Lifetime learning, lifetime education must be the motto. That is what one of the objectives. And encourage mobility of students from one institution to another institution. I told you in the beginning, NEP is aiming at transforming higher education institutions into multidisciplinary centers. You cannot claim that I am only a commerce college, I am only an arts college. You must have multidisciplinary subjects, and students must be taught to learn anything and everything that they desire of, that they believe contributes for their overall holistic development of their personality. From that angle, they can move from one course to another. There is a provision in the NEP 2020 that a student who join a science course at the end may turn out to be an arts graduate and vice versa. Such a provision must be made. As of now, we are still preparing for the absolute implementation of NEP. That provision may not have been announced to you, but the ultimate objective is that a student, even after taking admission to a course, desirous of studying something else, he must have the freedom, liberty to choose from among the available alternatives to make himself first convinced to get that degree. Many a time, our students are made to take a degree which they don't like, which they don't love, by force or because of the obligations. They are made to accept whatever we are giving. That should be changed. And accordingly, to facilitate this, the ABC, credit transfers, pattern, credit recognition, all these things have been introduced. And I'm not going to touch upon those issues. As you know, my focus is on holistic and multidisciplinary education. You will be knowing the vision of NEP 2020 speaks a lot about multidisciplinary and holistic education very clearly. What is it? I have summarized based on my understanding and the inputs available to me that the vision of this new policy is concerned with developing an education system an education system that contributes to an equitable and vibrant knowledge society. See, a knowledge society, knowledge has become the most powerful today. I and you are all knowledge workers. Our job is to create and disseminate knowledge to society. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is the most powerful instrument that can change anything. And knowledge transfer is possible only through education. Whatever the type of education you speak, ultimately it is the knowledge. When the knowledge is spread across the society will become enlightened, society will become an equitable, a vibrant place to live. Therefore, for every problem, there is a solution if we chase the track of knowledge. You will be knowing the world has experienced lot many things. Of all the things, let it be the muscle power, let it be the arms and ammunitions, the bomb, etc. They are all destructive at one point or the other. But the knowledge power, knowledge, if it is used in the proper sense, will solve all problems that the world has encountered, facing. Therefore, making people knowledgeable, making the community a knowledge-based community, and creating a society based on knowledge is the vision of NEP 2020 that can happen if we provide high quality education to all. High quality education to all. You'll be knowing our enrollment ratios has increased these days from a very low level of educated youngsters. We are now happily saying that our colleges and the universities have a huge input and the number of intakes have been increased, but still all of them are not getting the qualitative education. Ensuring quality education at the place where they are living with an intention of disseminating knowledge to create knowledge society is the vision of NEP 2020. Followed by that, it is to develop a deep sense of respect in the minds of the youngsters towards the fundamental rights of the Constitution. You will be knowing many a time knowledge and behavior may not have parity. There may not be proper relationship between the education and the way people live. Because many a time they think it is not relevant to remember all these things because it will not come for the examination. Passing the examination has become everything for many people because we have a system wherein we measure their intelligence based on the marks that they have secured. Very recently, even the Supreme Court came out with a judgment saying that the intelligence of a student cannot be measured only based on the marks they have secured in the examination. But as of now, we have a system wherein marks is considered as everything for measuring an individual's intelligence. At the same time, there are several means for the people to score more marks. And we have confused between memory and intelligence. Just memory is not the intelligence. Our examination systems are developed, designed to test the memory of the people and not their ability to interpret many a time. Ultimate objective of education is to create responsible citizens. If the society has to become an elite, educated, knowledge-based society, we must create members with responsibility. Members of the society to be with responsibility. That can happen only when our education system, along with teaching learning, along with the subjects that we are teaching, make them to understand beyond their core domain area, their core subject area. Therefore, NEP aims at making our students to know more about their fundamental rights. Needless to elaborate about the fundamental rights, we will be knowing they are the most prominent part of our Indian Constitution. But many a time people remember their fundamental rights and unmindful of fundamental duties. Rights will never come without duties and responsibilities. Constitutional values, whether you are a doctor, engineer, businessman, a poet, a teacher, whatever you are, life here is influenced, life here is governed by something called a constitution, and the constitution has certain values. These constitutional values, needless to go through the entire constitution, those who have read and remember the preamble to the Indian Constitution can understand what commitments we have made there about liberty, equality, fraternity, social justice. The social justice. Every individual must have an understanding of what is called social justice. What does it liberty means? Freedom. Whose freedom it is? Many a time we talk about the freedom of ourselves and forgetting the freedom of others. Fraternity, social justice. These are all the things that we must make our students to learn, to remember. And we must make the students to develop a bondage with the motherland to which they belong to. Nationality, national integrity, love for the nation, love for the nation. And along with that, a conscious awareness of their own roles and responsibilities in the changing world. You are a human being. As a human being, what are your obligations towards fellow human beings of the world, fellow human beings of your nation? Therefore, to make all this to happen, we need to change our system. The objective, the vision is to instill skills, values, and dispositions that support responsibility and commitment to human rights. Many people think human rights is a subject to be studied by law students. Whether you are a writer, journalist, doctor, engineer, anybody for that matter, you should respect the human rights. Responsibility of everybody is to respect others' right. Sustainable development. These days, we talk so much about sustainable goals envisaged in the UNO. 17 goals, their importance for development, everything, but we don't practice them. In order to make people to practice sustainable development approach in everything that they do. 17 goals and 169 indicators given by the UNO makes us to be responsible to protect this world for the new generations. Unless we take the responsibility of safeguarding this world, to hand it over to them in the way that we enjoyed our life in this world, our future generations will curse us. Our future generation will not excuse us. For that purpose, NEP 2020 has made it mandatory that in any course that we teach, there must be something about sustainable development, commitment to human rights, and global well-being. Global well-being in order to make students to become global citizens. That is what the intention of NEP 2020. NEP itself has given certain principles through which you can achieve this holistic and multidisciplinary objectives. What are the principles based on which we are expected to design the course contents for multidisciplinary and holistic education programs? The first principle is recognizing, identifying, fostering unique capabilities of each student. Every student is unique, special. Everyone is blessed with one thing or the other. In the class or wherever there is possible to interact, Identify the speciality of the students, his unique abilities, where he can fit in, and what suggestions, advices that we can give and he can develop. Let there not be hard separation of subjects like one for one section, one for another, like art, science, commerce, law. Let there not be a watertight compartmentalization of subjects. Let people have the freedom to discuss a concept from different dimensions, any subject for that matter. A disease, a COVID-19 may have different dimensions to be discussed for a lawyer, for a doctor, for an engineer, for a businessman. Everything in the world have several dimensions, several facets. These facets must not be confined to or strict into one particular dimension. Therefore, my point is to say that NEP is aiming at removing the hard separation between different branches of knowledge. Multidisciplinary and holistic education is the crux of the entire policy. As such, we are emphasizing on both conceptual understanding, creativity, and critical thinking in every program. Every program, whatever the program that you have taken, let there be creativity and originality. Critical thinking. For doing all this, let there be focus on conceptual issues also. And the promotion of multilingualism. Language is just a means for communication. No language is great, no language is inferior. Superiority or inferiority depends on the way people use that language. We must make people to believe that language is just a means. Fluency in one language will not make anybody great because of that only. Every language must be respected. Let people learn as many languages as possible. And let there be skill-based education. Education without skill, is only conceptual. Unless the concepts are practiced, used, they will never find value. For giving value for what we know, we must make it more practical, skill-based. And on the other day, I spoke to a couple of teachers about the need for skill today. One of the reasons for introducing this new policy is the changed circumstance. We are living presently in the era of Industrial Revolution 4.0. Industrial Revolution 4.0 is based on digitization of life, digitization of production. In this system, it is only people with certain skills will survive and others are made to go away. We cannot go away from life, but life will become miserable if we don't have the skills. See, some 5 years back, we were not aware so much about online classes, It is the crisis through this pandemic that made our teachers to rise to the occasion. I'm happy. Most of the teachers who haven't touched the computer, who haven't heard of Zoom or other platforms, rose to the occasion and learned how to be online class, conduct online classes, participate in virtual discussions and things like that. Therefore, promoting skill-based education is one of the prime principles based on which this NEP has been designed. New power and leadership styles are to be introduced. The world needs new type of leaders today. Leaders who only talk, leaders who only advise people will not work. Even the teachers, if you keep on advising to your students, they will not listen to you. Your advice, suggestions, comments, criticism must need to be practical, analytical, encouraging some more activities from your student. Therefore, new powerhouses, new leadership styles are expected to be developed through the NEP. That is another principle. Followed by that, use of artificial intelligence and latest technology in everything. Artificial intelligence has become so popular in anything and everything. We are using this today, starting from a smartphone that you are using and the automobiles that you are driving. In the automobile, we went to an extent of having a car without a driver, wherein technology itself will do everything. And incidentally, teachers are also being replaced by a robotic teacher to teach certain subjects. If this is the thing, unless we learn and unless we teach artificial intelligence to our students, they will be nowhere. But despite of all this, we are living in a country where there is a commitment in the constitution itself as social justice. That social justice must be delivered and given to everybody. There are certain fundamental rights which nobody can take from anybody. As such, the principle of equity and inclusion, discrimination in any form is not allowed, not expected, and must not be encouraged. Equality is the principle based on which this NEP has been designed. In the light of the new regulatory system, NEP believes in transparency, integrity of everything that we do. Therefore, what we are looking for is an outcome-based education. An outcome-based education is not confined to only one set of knowledge. Knowledge has become an ocean today. What we say knowledge explosion. Because of this knowledge explosion, there is no limit to say that this is the only thing that you have to learn. Everything is interconnected. Therefore, the outcome is a graduate must be able to discharge his duties in the changed world. A lawyer all the time need not have to depend on his assistant. If you don't know how to use the computer on his own, if you don't know how to use the new gadgets to study, investigate, and explore an incident, let it be of civil or criminal nature, is of not fit character for a present day situation. A teacher who don't know how to use the ICD facilities, technology, will become weak in the eyes of the present generation. And at the same time, a businessman who don't know the law of the land, who don't know the basics of changing scientific world, will face a lot of problems. Therefore, critical thinking, development of real life problem solving skills, extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, vocationalization of the courses, technical courses, these are the inevitable things that are proposed in NEP in order to make education holistic and practical. I have been repeatedly using the word holistic. What does it mean? How can we achieve this? I have suggested a lot many things so far. Holistic education is a comprehensive approach. It's a totality. To impart education where educators seek to address the emotional, social, ethical, and academic needs of the student in an integrated format, in one basket, or you can take it as a one formula wherein you are giving everything to the student in the form of academic programs where there is scope for meeting their emotional requirement, social requirement, ethical requirement, academic needs. It's a package. Holistic education is a package aiming at the overall total personality development of the students. And followed by that, we have been talking about multidisciplinary education. What does it mean? Multidisciplinary approach is one which defines and identifies problems and try to solve problems beyond and outside the boundaries with the help of various branches of knowledge to arrive at a solution for a complex problem through a new understanding. New understanding. See here, the problem may belongs to one particular branch of knowledge, but the solving that problem calls for knowledge from different disciplines. Say for instance, agriculture. Agriculture can become effective only when it is supported by chemistry with good fertilizer, botany, genetics with good quality seeds, engineering with good quality water resources, planning water management, mechanical engineers to support the development of agricultural equipments, implements, and at the same time, good marketing support to sell their products, insurance to protect their crops. See, agriculture needs the support of mechanical engineering, chemistry, botany, genetics, banking, insurance, civil engineering, lot many things. All these things must be synchronized and our farmers must be made to have the knowledge of all this so that problem solving will become easy for them. But the question is, they are not becoming the master of all these subjects. We must give them the minimum knowledge about all this. Say for instance, if a driver is absent, our farmer must be able to drive his truck, tractor. If a cook is absent, our hotel owners must be able to prepare some dish in the kitchen. That is what the multidisciplinary approach, it is to make the people to think beyond their boundaries. Every problem can be solved in a multidisciplinary approach. How? If you use a simple word like system, system has different meanings for a computer engineer, for a lawyer, for a professor of sociology, for a management teacher, for a mathematics teacher, for a physics teacher. But the word system is the same. We need to describe all this from the perspectives in which we are using. Otherwise, we will become very narrow and confined to our own well or pond, though the world is very wide. Therefore, here, what is the expected outcome of holistic education and multidisciplinary education? Expected outcomes, you can understand what I am trying to say. The expected outcome is integrated social and academic maturity. Our graduates, when they get out of the colleges with a degree, must be matured personalities. Their maturity must make them to be fit into the social situation where there are multidimensional problems. A doctor may also face a social problem. An engineer may face a social problem. A sociologist, an economist, everybody. Therefore, an integrated socio-academic maturity is what expected in the graduates that we are producing. Followed by that, instilling curiosity and originality in thinking. See, originality in thinking will come only when you are exposed more. When you are exposed to too many things, you know, your originality of thoughts will come. Say, for instance, if an engineer or a doctor or a scientist who is interested in literature will think differently when compared to others. You cannot say that literature is only for somebody. Think of a doctor interested in literature. His approach to mankind, the way in which he talks to patients, and its concern for curing the disease will be different from one who don't know anything about literature. And the knowledge of management is essential for everybody. Whether you are a doctor, a medicine, a lawyer, engineer, teacher, anybody for that matter, management is not a discipline which is separate from life. I am the one who always says management is something called common sense. But the common sense is not common. If our graduates and the people at large, forget about the graduates, use appropriate common sense all the time, most of the biggest problems of the world can be solved. It is lack of common sense that is causing many crises in this world. To make people to have that minimum common sense, maybe having 10 degrees to their credit. Sometimes people give visiting cards filled with degrees, without common sense. If there is no common sense, your degree has no value at all. And you will become a laughing stock in front of others. Present day situations call for multidisciplinary approach to solve the problem. Multidisciplinary. Your overall knowledge is what acts as a weapon to solve the problem. Then you are just mathematics, just engineering, just commerce degrees. Followed by that, lifelong learning through planning and prioritization. Unfortunately, we are living in a society where our qualifications are based on the degrees that we are getting. We must get a degree. But multidisciplinary and holistic education expects the students to be lifelong learners. They must know what to learn when to learn what. That is the priority. We must make them to plan their learning process. Say, for instance, here in the NEP, we have devised the course content in such a way, first year, 2 semesters, foundation courses, basics, along with some open electives. But by the time they reach the 4th year's honors degree, they will be made to concentrate more on research and project handling in order to make them independent researchers or professionals to take up jobs outside. By the time they complete the degree and get out of the colleges, they must become competent to realize the problems of the world and put themselves into problem solving. That is what the intention. And lifelong learning, when they feel I'm running shortage of knowledge, I'm running shortage of some skills, they can go for a training. Let them respect that learning has value all the time. Developing flexibility and creativity in problem solving. Let us not believe too much in principles only in terms of procedures, formulas, things like that. Anything that solves the problem is a solution. Let us find out a solution for the problem. Let us make people to believe that to lead a life, what is essential, instead of making them to think something big, something small. Let them believe in the dignity of labor. Let them not try to say that some job is important, some job is not. They're very simple. Developing interpersonal skills to maintain and value relationship. As I was telling, there are graduates, n number of students who are good in technical subjects, but not able to manage their own emotions. The number of crimes, the number of suicides are more among the educated ones. The reason is, illiterates are not a problem to any society. They can be molded, they can be advised because they will believe. The off-baked educated, the off-baked people with degrees, they don't have confidence. Lacking confidence make them to jump into hasty conclusions. That hasty conclusions make them to indulge in crimes, corruption, suicide, malpractices. All these things are because of lack of training towards ethics. Needless to say too much about ethical things and all. I'm not going to talk about it unless it is required, because it is the personal ethics that influences the professional ethics and the ethics of life. People believe in something and do something else. As such, there may not be parity in their understanding and practice. Therefore, relationship management is the biggest thing. If you are able to manage your relations at home, you can manage the relations in the office, in the community, in the country. Therefore, human relations must be respected, and we must teach our children, students, to develop such skills. Practice continuous improvement in life and resilience. Continuous improvement. Don't feel at any point of time I'm complete, I'm everything. I did everything, I know everything. No, it is not possible. There is scope for learning every day. Let us be good communicators. Communication solves 60% of the problems in life. It is the bad communication or the improper communication that creates problem. He and me, I mean, holistic education and multidisciplinary education aims at developing communicators to make people to be communicators. Keeping all these things in mind, I'm going to summarize and take up few questions later on. The summary that I am giving, what is this multidisciplinary and holistic education? What is the philosophy? I'm making precise. Even if you have not listened to me so far, just look at this and you can understand and ask questions on this. The philosophy is that every individual finds identity, purpose through connectivity with nature and other human beings. The philosophy is that the meaning for our life and meaning for ourselves depends on our connectivity with the nature and the people around us. How are you connected with the people around you? The people may be your friends, your relatives, your colleagues, your nationals, human beings on the earth. How are you connected with that? How do you relate yourself with fellow human beings? And at the same time, how do you relate yourself with the nature? The trees, mountains, rivers, animals, wild animals. How do you relate yourself? If a dog dies on the street, how do you look at it? If an elephant is killed in the forest, how do you look at it? If a mountain is digged to fulfill somebody's greed, how do you look at it? If an house is burnt to satisfy somebody, how do you look at it? If somebody is raped and it is reported, how do you think about it? If somebody is humiliated, insulted, how do you feel about it? This is what the philosophy. How are you connected with the people around you and the nature around you? That influences what you are and what is your purpose in life. The concept of holistic education and multidisciplinary education believes in integrating the layers of meaning and experiences rather than defining human possibilities. Meaning and experience. What does it mean to you? Say, for instance, you may ask a question, as an individual, can I solve the problem of this world? Will I be able to eradicate hunger from this world? Is it possible for me to feed everybody? No, I'm not expecting you. How much you can do? Education is to balance between two extremes of convergent and non-convergent, divergent rather. Convergent and divergent ends. The one act that balances these two is education. Say, for instance, we have not seen God. We try to see God. For the purpose of seeing the God, we have created our own gods and goddesses. What best we can do, what best we could afford, that we have done. Likewise, when the problem comes, we cannot keep our hands tied saying that I'm an individual, what can I do? No. This is the philosophy. This is the concept. It integrates multiple layers of meaning and experiences rather than defining human possibilities narrowly. The system determines how its parts works. This is the most important thing you need to remember. The system defines how its parts works and not the sum of the components that determines the totality. As a lawyer, if you know something about literature, as a lawyer, if you know something about medicine, as a lawyer, if you know something about engineering, you can become a good lawyer. As a teacher, Teacher of mathematics, if you know something about music and literature, mathematics, he can be a different type of teacher. A physics professor with the knowledge of philosophy, the physics professor with the knowledge of law, with the knowledge of economics, can do wonders. Multidisciplinary, the moment I say, it is to connect, the interconnected. There are different levels: interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary. Transdisciplinary means taking knowledge from everywhere. That's what Sarvajna said. Sarvajna in Kannada and Thiruvelluvar, they were all the people believing that let knowledge come from any dimensions, any direction. If it is good for the mankind, let us accept it. That is what the concept of multidisciplinary education. The aim is to develop holistic personality. Holistic means total personality. That total personality depends on everything. If you say I am good in mathematics, don't know about ethics, I know good mathematics, I know engineering, not good in physics, literature, it is incomplete. Make people to have an holistic personality. For that purpose, how can we do this as teachers? The question you can raise is, how can I teach all this? It is possible through transformations, connections, transdisciplinary inquiries. Transdisciplinary inquiry means arrange discussions, debates, workshops, seminars, visits to places. Say, for instance, many of our urban students have not seen the village life, and many of our village and rural students have not visited a mall, have not visited a laboratory. I have seen till today graduates who have not touched a computer. There are students who have not seen what is a bank. There are students who have not seen how does a court works. Even many young teachers, professors think that a court will be something like the scene that we see in the cinemas and the teleserials. They have not seen what is a court hall is, what is a laboratory. They make the people to visit, interact, see, discuss. Problem solving must be the main focus. Living in the community will teach you how to solve a problem. A village panchayat head, a village old man, without studying philosophy, law, language, etc., may be a role model for many of us to pick up certain things, not everything, not necessary to pick up everything from everybody. One or two things from an illiterate, ignorant, elderly person. Many a time, we don't like to interact with the age-old people. Create an opportunity. Instead of talking about compassion, theoretically, take your students to such a place, give an assignment for them to interact with such a situation, an orphanage, an old age home. Why people are there? That will teach us how to be in life. Therefore, it is the pedagogy, the tools that we use for transforming our children will make us to handle this holistic education effectively. But still, for implementing this, there are challenges. I know I'm a practical, optimistic person. Never say it is impossible, but there are challenges. What are the challenges? The first challenge is to develop a supporting system, restructuring the entire program, managing admissions and choice, allotment of courses, and many teachers will say preparation of timetable itself is a challenge, and followed by that uncertainty with regard to the intake of students and the availability of faculty who can teach these multidisciplinary courses. Documentation is a big problem. Attendance, evaluation, sending students from one subject to another subject. These are all the big problems. For that, training and placement. Ultimately, the popularity of a course depends on the employability, usability of the knowledge that we are giving. That can happen only when we prepare ourselves for all this. But preparation will definitely help us to reach what we are targeting. But we should move with a positive mindset. Multidisciplinary, holistic approach to study, is based on the principle of diversity experience. Diversity experience is one that says there is no better fertile ground for innovation than a diversity of experience. Diversity of experience means you should have worldly wiseness. You should see the world. That's the reason our elders used to say that Desa Suttu athava Kosha Odu. Desa Suttu Kosha Odu means travel or read. By traveling, you can learn lot many things, as equally by reading things. But these days, certain things can be learned by seeing, by experiencing, by being in that place. Therefore, education is to do, to know, to live together. There is no better fertile ground for innovation than a diversity of experience. And that diversity of experience arises from a difference of cultures, ethnicities, and life backgrounds. A successful scientific endeavor is one that attracts a diversity of experience, draws upon the breadth and depth of that experience, and cultivates those differences, acknowledging the creativity they spark. Ultimately, education is to spark creativity in the minds of youngsters. The objective of holistic education is to instill creativity in the minds of young brains, because they are the hope for this country. They are the future of this country. The demographic dividend can only make India strong. We are all in the task of interacting and guiding these youngsters. If we keep all these things in mind and do our level best, I'm sure we will go in the direction of preparing India for the new generation, India for the coming future, to face the challenges of the coming future. Thank you all. If you have any queries, questions, comments, criticism, so far I never allowed you to talk to me. There was no scope. Unlike in a lecture class, I didn't ask any question to you. As it is a webinar, it was one-sided communication. Please do feel free to interact.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, now the session is open for discussion. If you have any queries, please go ahead. Please put on video. Full screen but il madakalla or now kodaboda.
Even communication must be multi-angle. It should not be a one-sided communication. Let there be interaction. I didn't allow you, thinking that there will be time for interaction. If you have any comments to make, feel free. Any questions? Questions are allowed.
Dear participants, please, if you have any queries and questions or opinions, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
This is Dr. Kayalvili. Really, the session was very wonderful, enlightening one. But I joined late. I am working in